Thank you for joining Money Simplified, your guide to money and mutual funds, presented by Franklin Templeton Mutual Fund. We appreciate your participation. At PersonalFN, we are committed to helping investors achieve their financial goals and objectives. Our core proposition is built around unbiased research and financial planning. We wish to thank Franklin Templeton Mutual Fund for partnering with us in this investor education and awareness initiative. Welcome to this special series on life goals, brought to you by Money Simplified, your guide to money and mutual funds. We are glad to have you with us for our third session on retirement planning, and that is evaluating your risk profile. Alright, so let's get started. In the world of investments, investors often make the mistake of misjudging their risk appetite. Many investors easily fall for financial instruments which may not be suitable for them, or at times even invest in unregulated instruments. This is quite common in cases where investors get carried away by some extraordinary gains made by their friends or relatives, or on the basis of misleading advice. In such cases, it may happen that the return on offer would look really attractive, but they may come with a level of risk you cannot afford to take. After all, it is your hard-earned money and you should invest it prudently. So in this session of Money Simplified, we will help you understand why is it critical to consider risk when we talk about investing and how you can evaluate your risk profile. First, why is it critical to consider risk? Any discussion about investing is incomplete unless it underlines the risk along with the potential return. Very often, we all want to earn high returns on our investments, but high returns come at a price. Remember, there are no free lunches. As earning high returns also calls for taking high risks, not all are comfortable taking high risk. Thus, before you consider any investment product which claims to offer you high returns, it is critical to assess the risk associated with such investment products in conjunction with your own risk-taking ability. Although you may understand what we mean by risk, you must also know that there is a difference between risk appetite and a risk tolerance level. Risk appetite versus risk tolerance. While risk appetite refers to willingness of an individual to take risk tolerance implies the ability of an individual to tolerate the level of downside risk. Determinants of risk. First, let's take risk appetite. Under risk appetite, number one is your current age. At a younger age, you have the advantage of time and may have the willingness to take high risk. Second is your past experience with your investments. Going by your past experience, if you have earned substantially high returns in the past, you may have the heart to take more risk. 3. Your knowledge. A thorough knowledge about something increases your awareness. Becoming aware about good and bad effects completely may help you analyze risk better. Let's talk about risk tolerance now. Under that, the first is your current financial situation. You can assess your current financial situation by considering factors like your income, expenses, assets, liabilities, and financial responsibilities that you're shouldering. A favorable current financial situation may help you increase your risk tolerance level. Then the next is your contingency funds. Your savings for a rainy day can enable you to take risk. If you have failed to maintain adequate funds for your contingency needs, your risk tolerance level could be low, as you are not financially ready to manage any contingent events. Nearness to your financial goals. The time left to achieve your financial goals also determines the risk that you can prudently afford to take while investing. If your financial goals are far away, you can afford to have a higher risk tolerance level, but if your financial goal is near, then your risk tolerance level is usually low. Number 4 is insurance coverage. Life being uncertain, you would not want to pass on any financial burden to your loved ones. If you do not have an optimal insurance cover, your risk tolerance level would be low. So risk profile is equal to risk appetite plus the risk tolerance. As you can make out from the equation, your risk profile is a combination of risk appetite and risk tolerance level, which helps in prudent risk assessment. Once you have identified your risk appetite and risk tolerance levels well, you would be nearly close to assessing your risk profile. So it is a combination of your risk appetite and a risk tolerance that you need to consider before taking any major investment decisions. Categories of risk profile. Based on the risk profile, you as an investor can be broadly classified as number 1, risk seeker or aggressive. If your risk profile is high, you are an aggressive investor and may be willing to take high risk. Number 2 is risk neutral or moderate. If your risk profile is between medium to high, you would be moderate on your risk. You may be looking to earn a decent return at a relatively lower risk. Risk averse or conservative. If your risk profile is between low to medium, you are a conservative investor and risk averse in nature. You may not be comfortable in taking risk. Risk profiles can be further fine-tuned to include 5 instead of 3 categories: aggressive, moderately aggressive, moderate, moderately conservative, and conservative. Here is an indicative portfolio allocation for investors having different kind of risk profile. For an investor with aggressive risk appetite, allocation to equities would be relatively higher for goals which are very long-term in nature. For a moderate risk appetite, allocation to equities will be slightly lower than for an aggressive investor. Such investors should balance their portfolio between equities offering growth and debt to cushion the downside risk. If you are a conservative investor and are risk averse, seeing a loss in your portfolio is most likely going to make you uncomfortable. So you need to prioritize the protection of your capital. Depending on your age and investment time horizon, a major portion of your investments would be in debt. Lastly, here are some points to remember. While there is information galore on investment avenues, you ought to adopt caution. Ensure that you are taking a wise investment decision which suits your needs and risk profile. There is no point in being carried away by an investment opportunity which has been hyped, even though it may be really worth it, and do not indulge in something that does not suit your risk profile or you do not understand. You should be cautious of investment opportunities which harp on returns and do not emphasize on the risk involved. As a matter of fact, in the absence of information related to risk, information isn't just incomplete, it may be downright misleading. So to end our learning exercise today, we now invite you to test your learning by taking this simple quiz and win exciting prizes. Thank you for participating. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read all scheme related documents carefully.